So for this assignment, I learned about special education services that are provided in both public and private school settings. I learned about the pros and cons, about the services that they're required to provide in both settings according to the law, and I also learned about different scenarios of families who have actually experienced placing their children in both settings. So to begin with, some pros of being in private school is that the classrooms tend to be smaller, so there's a higher chance for individualized attention from the teacher. Also, the teacher doesn't necessarily have to follow the state curriculum to a T because they kind of have more free reign to kind of manipulate the system in a way. They also have the ability, if it's a religious based school, they can talk about God and they can center their lessons and the planning more around the spiritual aspect of God, not so much about just standards and tests and things like that. On the other hand, public schools also have many pros. I personally came from public school from pre-K all the way to senior year of high school. I went to public school and I had a pretty great overall experience. So some pros of public school are that you don't have to pay for tuition because it's funded by the government, by people's income state taxes. Also, there's bigger chances, or there's more extracurricular activity opportunities such as more sports, more clubs. There's also more diverse setting because everyone comes from different places when they go to public school. There's people of low poverty, high poverty, different ethnicities, backgrounds. There's just so much in public school. Also, of course, depending on which state you're in, what county you're attending. So with that said, now I'm going to talk about the special education services that are provided in both settings. So for private school, because they are not funded by the government, by the state government, they are not really required to actually provide special education services for kids with disabilities. However, they can provide accommodations and modifications within the classroom, but nothing is set in stone, like nothing's in paper, nothing's legal, or there's no legal contract that states, oh, you have to specifically do this for my child. It's just the teachers can do what they can. However, on the other hand, in public schools, they are required by the state, by the law, to provide this need for the child through IEPs. Like by the law, they are required to conduct IEPs, and also the child find. And it's just a lot of paperwork that together the parents and the school and the state have to go through together to provide these needs for the children. Also, in public school, there is a higher chance that there will be hired professionals who know what they're doing in this field, in the field of special education for your child. So there's a higher chance that your child will be more better off in a public school setting rather than the private school setting if they have disabilities, if they need special education. However, with that in mind, there's also exceptions. Like if you want to have your child in a private school through the child find, you can also make it in a way so that they attend private school, but they are also receiving the education, the special education from a public school through child find. And the government is, of course, going to be funding for all of this. And with all of this in mind, whatever you decide to do, either way, there's going to be a lot of paperwork involved, a lot of parental involvement. The teacher has to be involved, the principal, the school, the district, even at the state level. So either way, if you decide to have your child in public or in a private school setting, if they have a disability, either way, you can make it work. You just have to figure out the school's environment, what services and resources the school provides, if they're professional enough, like if they have the professional teachers who can teach your child to their needs. With all of this in mind, what I learned, what I got from this, my big so what, is that as a future teacher, if I'm teaching in a private school and I ever have a child who has a learning disability, I'm going to have to analyze and observe, see how far that disability is. If I believe in my professional mindset, if I believe that the child has a major disability that me as their teacher or the school in general will not be able to accommodate, then I have to inform the parents about that and the school so that together we can figure out, okay, what are we going to do? Either the child's going to stay here, and through Child Find, we're going to help them go to or receive these services from a public school while still attending the private school, or on the other hand, the child is just going to be better off going to a public school, and then together we can figure out which school would be the best for the child. Also, if the child does not, if he does seem to have learning disability, but it's not, I don't believe it's that advanced, I can still talk to the parents about it, to the principal, and find ways that I can accommodate and modify things within the classroom to help this child learn to the best of their ability. On the other side, if I teach at a public school, I will also be able to observe, analyze my students, and see if they're going to need this individualized special needs education. And if I do, then from there, kind of talk to the principal. The process of getting IEPs and help from the state will be higher. The probability of being able to assist these children in a public school setting will be higher because there will be professionals within the school, and it will be a bit easier to get to these professionals than if I was in private school. Also, learning about this helps me to think about my future as an educator. I've realized I'm really interested in the field of just inclusive education and learning disability and special needs education. So perhaps after taking this class, learning all of these things, this has piqued my interest more in this area of education. So perhaps in the future, I could probably get a master's or even a doctorate in special needs education, and someday I can be that professional who will help children within the classroom in a public school setting or in a private school setting facilitate their needs, their special education needs. So that is what I learned from this assignment. Definitely was very eye-opening because I've always heard the debate of, oh, is private school better, is public school better, but I've never heard it from this perspective, dealing with kids with learning disabilities. So it was really interesting to read about, really got me thinking about not just now, but also of the future, and how I am, as a teacher, am going to strive to try to observe my students and try to facilitate their learning as much as I can, and perhaps one day I'll be the special needs education teacher.